Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where we help you raise your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. You can get a free copy of our book at nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link. Also, if you'd like to learn more about our institutional quality investments, check out our invest link. On today's show, you do not want to miss Gary Wilson's story. Gary bought his first property at 22, sold it, doubled his money, and then didn't do anything for almost 15 years. At 35, he made his first real estate investment, and by 40 was financially independent. Today, he's going to share what he's up to today, all of his 7 books that he's written, and how he helps investors get the most out of their investing strategy. Today's show is sponsored by Money Insights and their investment optimizer strategy. In my book, I share how I use this same strategy starting over a decade ago to invest my money in 2 places at one time. This strategy has been used by the wealthiest for generations for estate planning, minimizing taxes, preserving wealth, and increasing stability for their investments. Now you can do the same thing. In addition, you can build a plan to build an emergency fund, pay for college, fund a business, plan for retirement, and ultimately optimize your total financial picture. To find out more information, check us out at the banking link at nextlevelincome.com. On today's show, we have Gary Wilson. Gary bought his first property in his early 20s, turned it around after 2 years and made a tremendous profit, but then didn't do anything for almost 15 years. At the age of 35, he decided he had to exit corporate America. Less than 5 years later, at age 40, he was able to retire from corporate America. And today he's done thousands of real estate transactions, and he's shifted from doing fix and flips to 9-figure commercial deals. Gary's a self-made multimillionaire building real estate enterprise, including brokerage, rental management, investment services, settlement services, and appraisal services. He is the author of 7 real estate investment books. He's the founder, trainer, and coach of the Path to Profit system. And today he joins us to share his story.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to raise your income, investments, and life to the next level with your host, Chris Larson. Get your free copy of his book at nextlevelincome.com/book. Also, if you're an accredited investor, check out the Invest link to learn how to gain access to institutional quality real estate opportunities.
Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I had a great time on your podcast, which I shared with the audience here. Man, you got some awesome projects that you're working on. I can't wait to dig into that. But I also, as I mentioned a little bit in the intro, with your background, I'd love to tell you, have you tell the audience kind of how you went from, a computer scientist to, some of these projects you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, really, it all started actually in college. We were to the orientation the summer before freshman year to take all the placement exams, what English you're going to be in, what math you're going to be in, all the core classes for freshman and sophomore. And met a guy named Socrates, and we became very good friends, in fact, best friends, and we became roommates. And in fact, in a student union center, when we finished our exams, coming back to wrap up the 2-day event and head home, our parents were sitting there talking to each other. Like, how cool is this? Because we wanted to be roommates. So we called the student, whatever they call them, human resources. And we said, we want to be roommates. Can we switch our roommates? They said, absolutely. So, when we graduated college, I'll bypass all the beer, the 4 years of beer, and have somehow or other we got degrees and all that. But we were going to go out and rent a house out on the beach, because we're both making good money. We're like, why not? We're 22, 23 years old. And his dad said, oh no, he says, you're not going to rent, you're going to buy. And you're going to buy a house, and you're going to make you some money. Of course, Socrates comes from that background. His dad was a big investor. Nobody in my family was an investor. So my mom was deathly afraid of buying a house, let alone me buying a house right out of college. So he helped us buy this 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom rancher. And we rented out the other 2 bedrooms to 2 other guys whose combined rent pretty much paid all of our costs. I mean, we had, as far as debt goes, we had 3 mortgages on the property. It was creative financing to the nth degree. We assumed a mortgage, wow, refinanced another one, gave a private note for a third. And I get married 2 years later, and Socrates bought me out. I had a total of maybe $3,000 into it, and I pulled $8,000 out in 2 years and lived essentially for free. I'm thinking, this is pretty cool stuff. The thing that I did, though, is a typical kid. I didn't listen. Mr. DeMett when we closed, we went to beach houses at the Outer Banks from North Carolina. We're standing on the top deck, and he's pounding his chest, saying, if you boys do what I tell you to do, you won't have to work for anybody else when you're 35 years old. Of course, we didn't listen. We bought cars and boats and all kinds of fun stuff. In any case, 10 years later, I'm waking up in the corporate world and doing well. I was being promoted regularly and moving up. I was reporting directly to the executives. And I didn't buy a single property other than my own home since then. And I remember thinking, what if I had listened to him? Because I felt like, Chris, I was literally dying on the vine in the corporate world. I was doing well, but was not happy. So I started investing aggressively. And by the time I was 40, I was able to retire. In any case, that degree in computer science got me 18 years of corporate experience, management experience, a lot of experience dealing with politics and really how to, put your head down, work hard and position yourself so that you're promoted to the next level. So here's what I found out. People don't promote other people because of what they did. They promote them because what they believe they can do, right? So if you're just a 9-to-5 guy, but you're a good worker, don't expect to be promoted. Just get your raises, and that's all you're going to get. You want to be promoted, you got to get in earlier than the 9-to-5ers.
Act as if, right?
Yep. And you got to
Absolutely.
take on projects. You got to say yes to opportunity, right? Ask for it, and that's how you get promoted. So that world was not for me, though. I just learned a lot of valuable skills, and I got into investing, started buying little duplexes and fourplexes and flipping and, single family homes and things like that. And that was my life for a couple of years. I built up a little portfolio of 45 units. I was able to leave the corporate world. And then I had this strange sensation of feeling guilty because here I am 40 years old. Every day I go down on my deck with a cup of coffee and the paper in my bathrobe, watching my neighbors drive off to work. And it just took a year for me to get used to give myself permission to say, you know what, I earned that. I literally bought my own freedom, and actually worked harder as a result. I really went busters on the investing, Chris, and I started really learning and connecting with people that were twice my age, who'd done 10 times more than I had, and take them to lunch and go visit their properties and help out. I would go help them for free. So I wanted to learn. That was the beginning phase, or I call that phase one. So yeah. So
I love it. I love your story, and I was kind of amazed when we first spoke. Just some of the similarities, and like we we're talking about before the show, like I feel like you're a little bit ahead of me, but our paths have been so mirrored. The ages we bought our first properties, spending 18 years in corporate America. But there's a couple things you said in there that are just solid gold, in my opinion. For a lot of people I talk to, Gary, they're listening like, well, I didn't start when I was 21, or I didn't start when I was 22. But like you, I spent 15 years doing the wrong stuff. How old were you when you got back into it again?
I was 30. I had got married, had children.
Yeah.
I'm
So
like
35.
Yeah.
So 35. So again, if you're listening, Gary, he started in his early 20s, but he really didn't start till he was 35. And that's what it took me. I think I was 30. I was 33, almost 35 when I was like, oh, there's a way better way to do this. But then you said something else. You said, don't expect to get promoted for doing your job. You need to act as if you're doing your boss's job to get promoted. I think that's such great advice. I grew up in a family. My mother was an assistant teacher. My stepfather was a contractor, and they would talk about how, I don't get paid enough to work that hard. And I just remember thinking and shaking my head and thinking like, you're never, you're not going to get anywhere doing that. So again, if you're listening and heard that from Gary, I want to underscore that if you want to go to the next level of your career, the best thing you can do is look at your boss, think like your boss, and start acting like that. Find a way to do that. All right. So Gary, you started with the single family homes. It took you only 5 years to go from basically zero to retired. Then you said you shifted into high gear. What does that mean? How have you transformed from those small fix and flips to what, and we can start talking about some of the projects you're doing today. I can't wait.
Yep. So what happened? There was a couple things going on at this point. Number one is, you might imagine, I had my own crew, like managing those 44 units. I definitely did not want to be the person go clean them out when somebody left and show all the vacancies. I did in the beginning. I did
Yeah.
everything, and even cleaning on the first couple ones. I did everything. So what I started doing was find people that I thought, they got the work ethic. They seem like good, straight, reliable people. I'll give them one role to do like on a part-time basis, because some of them were actually tenants and they had regular jobs. And I'll give an example. One time I was in a pinch and I had to have one of my units be shown, but I couldn't be there. I just physically be there. So I called one of my tenants 2 doors down and I said, hey, would you mind going to show this unit? I'll tell you where you can find a spare key. Just show them the unit. That's all I want you to do. You don't have to do anything else. And I'll knock off $50 off your rent. So get back at the end of the day, I called her and say, how'd that go? She said, well, I got at least. So what are you talking about? She said, well, I kept blank copies of what you gave me when I run it from you. And I went over there with a 8.5 11 notepad and a pen and asked them all the questions you asked me and showed them around and asked him, did he want to commit to the, and he wrote a check in your name for the security deposit. And I've got the security deposit form already filled out. And I was like, holy crap. I said, would you like to do more of that? She said, yes, Mr. Wilson, I would love to. I was trying to feed my daughter and my day job is okay, but I want more than that out of life. And I said, you're my gal. Yep. Years later, managing my property management business, I built a business from scratch. It all started with that one move. So what happened is, fast forward, I was invited to a radio program one Saturday morning. One of the guys that taught real estate investing, we call them the late night gurus, infomercial gurus. And I knew who he was, and I said, it was a Sunday morning business program. I knew the program because I listened to it myself. And I said, really? I said, yeah, I'd be excited to do that. So I get up at 5 in the morning anyway. So drove down there, and he called me Monday and he said, I just want to tell you, I sold more training programs over the weekend because of your interview ever before. He said, would you come to one of my classes and just go and have lunch with the guy so they can see you're a real person. You're a regular guy.
Yeah.
You drive a truck, which I did at the time, and you learn everything on your own. I said, absolutely. So that turned into me coming I think a half a Saturday every month just to do like a cameo appearance and teach one subject.
A cameo. I love that, Gary.
Yep. Didn't get anything from it. They got nothing out of that other than it was fun. I had enjoyed, because these people were hungry for information.
Yeah.
Well, they found out I got my realtor's license because I was frustrated by the fact that most realtors didn't know how to help me as an investor. Now, I'm not saying commercial agents, I'm strictly speaking residential. Wonderful people, really good at helping you and I buy our own home, but they were not trained to work with investors. That's one of the big misses on residential real estate, which includes anything up to 4 units. It's like mind-boggling. They don't address. So in any case, I used to tell them, no, I don't do that. I don't use my license to do work with others. And that's about 100 times I realized maybe God should tell me something. So I went in and I said, okay, look, and the average class is 25 people. I said, I can take 2 of you. I got enough for my schedule. I can call on 2 of you. And I learned my first marketing lesson. What happens when you tell a group of 25 people, only 2 of them can do the thing they all want to do? So lo and behold, I realized, okay, I'm gonna make a business out of this too, and I did. Built a brokerage company out of it. We were the fastest growing brokerage company 3 years running, and then those people wanted me to manage their properties. And again, I used to say, no, I don't. My team's my team. I want to get into management. It's horrible. It's nobody. It's a thankless job. And I know God's trying to give me a hint after about 100 times. So I took my top favorite clients, about 8 of them, and it was a total of 40 units I took under my belt, thinking this is actually pretty good because I systematized it. What I did, Chris, is I took my systems experience from banking and applied it to real estate, which was a big deal because back then real estate was really like the wild, wild west. I mean, there was no organization, no structure. The corporate structure, but not out of the sales side of things. It was just pretty much the wild, wild west. So I structured that, and they loved it. And that thing grew to units in 3 years.
Oh,
so now I got this other business going on. So and by the way, I started a brokerage, my own brokerage at the same time. So I had brokerage for sales and management for and they both fed each other, business, of course. And next thing you know, I'm making more on the businesses than I'm making on the properties. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty awesome. And by the way, great lesson. I met Robert Kiyosaki. I took all his training years ago,
Yeah.
and paid to meet him for a weekend out of Lake Tahoe. And I said, I just want to run some by here. I know that I'm cash flow quadrant. On the left side, you get employees and self-employed. On the right side, where you want to be, business owner, investor.
Nice.
And I said, Robert, I just want to tell you, I'm glad I have all my investments. It was basically the foundation upon which I launched these other businesses that actually make me more money. He said, that's exactly the way you do it.
Yes.
He said, a lot of people misunderstand the whole thing. They think investing is the end game. It's only part of it. Owning businesses is the other part. And that's, I love that. Everybody listening, I would write that one down, guys. One of the biggest lessons I ever learned. You want to have property and you want to have businesses. Now, my opinion is make them all related, the same business sector. Because if you own a pizza shop and own an auto garage, there's no way you're going to be able to leverage one off the other and commingle systems and operations. Make sure
cook your pizzas on the engines somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. Really, so Chris, that was really the beginning of phase 2.
Yeah.
And that was a huge happens. Check this out. It's not like you double your net worth and your income. It's usually exponential, the growth. It's like a factor of 10,
Yeah. And I love how we're breaking this up into phases because it gives us a chance to kind of walk through some of the lessons here, Gary. So I think what you said there, I mean, I'll never forget. I ran into a gentleman in a bookstore in maybe 2000 who handed me Rich Dad Poor Dad and said, you need to read this because we were in the finance section. And I was in my kind of learning period. And I've experienced the same thing. This is what I go through with my coaching clients is you need that base of investments to give you the income so you can walk away from your job. So then you can focus on what you want. And the thing that I've noticed, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. What I was striving for, and it sounds like you kind of hit the same point. You hit that point of financial independence. You're sitting there in your robe, chilling in the morning, drinking your coffee, and you're like, all right, there's got to be more than this. And that's when I said, oh, there's this opportunity to grow. And that's where you enter that business quadrant. And that's what I've been explaining to my coaching clients is, look, once you get to that point, you're going to realize that there's a whole nother level that you now have access to because of the time and the freedom. And the other piece that I found, Gary, is that when you do have that time and freedom, you don't do what somebody else wants you to do. You do what you want to do.
Yep.
So exactly I love that. So again, use the I quadrant from Rich Dad Poor Dad to drive your ability to get into the B quadrant. And that's where true exponential wealth is made. I love that. So let's talk about that jump in wealth. Going into phase 3, we were talking about some of your projects you have now, Gary. What does that kind of encompass as you push through into these next levels?
Yeah, it really actually phase 3, I would really say it's the same steps as phase 2. It's just much bigger. So for example, I built these companies. I even had a title company, an appraisal company. And another really good lesson in business is if you've already got a client, you've got a captive audience of client base you're serving, chances are they need more than just one thing. Like in banking, think about it. You get a checking account, a savings account, a CD, an IRA, all kinds of things, right? Even insurance now and other investments. So in real estate, I realized every client I had obviously needed a property manager, already had that, but every time they bought a property, they needed title insurance. So I said, okay, let's do that. And every time they buy a property, they need to have an appraisal. This was before the Congress changed all the rules for that back in like 2010, I think it was.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to market anymore to get the clients. We just served the same clients multiple times. But in any case, when I was talking to Mr. Kiyosaki, he said, I could ask him that question. I said, well, now what do you do? If you build these businesses, then is that it? And he said, no, you funnel all that back into your real estate. But he said, now you're going into the bigger arena of commercial. Yeah. And boy, did I do that in a big way. I went out and bought a unit apartment complex. And that was a big deal for me at the time. But you know what, man, it was awesome. We took that place. We used the rents. I could have lived off that one complex. It was that profitable. So that got me into the commercial arena. And fast forward, it got me into the business end of the commercial arena, right? So in other words, Gary Wilson first learned himself. I bought that big apartment complex, right? And then later on, I recognized I built this. I have this national team now. We have agents in 27 states, so I've got a national presence. And because of that national presence and the experience we have on the investing side, we started attracting other investors who do not do anything related to brokerage. They just are simply investors. So we have one project right now. I can tell you about it. It's in Pittsburgh, and there's an area called Mount Washington that overlooks the three rivers, the famous three rivers, right? Pittsburgh Three Rivers, the Point and the football stadium, the casino, the baseball stadium. So I know the owners of the tabletop property. We call that tabletop, meaning it's flat and it's on the top, and it's a couple acres. And we have a few people who we're down to the wire now. One guy's actually flying in a couple from Chicago. They build retirement, high-end retirement homes. Or housing, excuse me. So they like the idea of, we have areas up to 26 stories, and it's 2 acres. You figure, do the math on that. You're looking at 2 million plus buildable feet. Okay. Now, even if they did half of that, the cost to build, depending on what you're building, it could be 200 to 500 a foot. This is going to be somewhere around the 300 range. But we believe it's going to be 400 by the time it's all, because costs keep going up. It's like two per month.
And you add amenities and all those sorts of things,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, over 300 square foot's not unreasonable.
Yeah, but the projected aggregate sale value at the end is over $800 million. And guys, I know some of you listeners are saying, well, that's way out of my league. It was for me too. I wasn't this way. I mean, believe me, when I was a kid, I was on a school lunch program. I wore Goodwill clothes. Okay. And when I bought that house with Socrates, my mom was literally trying to talk me out of it. That's like too big of a move for our family, right? We were renters.
Yeah.
So for this to happen, it's not like I was always like this. It's not an overnight success. It may look like it, but it's after 36 years of plugging away, even taking 10 years from the beginning. So in any case, to fill in a little suggestion I have for anybody out there who's an agent, okay, if you're a real estate agent or a broker, whenever you get into a development project, okay, land development, where builders come in and build after the developer, the pipes and the cable and the roads and all that, always ask for the brokerage rights on a minimum sales. So I'm doing on sales, leasing, and management, okay?
Yeah.
So in any case, always think of the possibilities. How can you further serve this person, and ask for it? Because if you don't ask, you're definitely not going to get it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're going to get every single thing you ask for. I mean, the fact is, just like in baseball players swing at every pitch. Nope. But you've got to be in the game to receive the pitches. You got to analyze properties. You got to ask questions, and you're not even going to hit every one you swing at. But you've got to swing to get a hit. You might get a first base, second base, third base. Maybe you get a home run. Maybe every now and then you're going to get a grand slam home run. That's what this is. And I'm telling you, if you really knew more of my background, I am the least likely person to be doing this. I was computer science, for crying out loud. My head was buried in a computer. I was not talking to other human beings. Okay. So this is way outside the natural comfort zone. But when you get a taste of it, I'm telling you, listening here, you gotta tell yourself, give yourself permission to believe that you're capable of doing it too. Because I know if I can do it, you can do it. All right. And you've got to ask, and you got to swing the bat. I mean, that's the key. We got other projects going on. We're working on. We just landed a resort in India, a 5-star resort in India. We've got a land development deal in Oregon on one of the called Cloverleaf, when you have a big an interchange, right?
Yeah.
So I-5 on the West Coast is like the I-95 on the East Coast. We got a land deal there where they got the approval for a mall, high density housing, low density housing, restaurant, movie theaters, all kinds of stuff. And we're the listing broker on that. Another one in 267 acres in Florida on I-5. I'm like, holy smokes. There's other projects too, but the thing is the bigger ones have come about as a result of of me and the team putting ourselves in that position. We say yes to opportunities. I'm telling you, if big opportunity comes your way and you think it's way better than where you are now, that's probably true. But if you're going to ever work on those kind of projects, you have to say yes. And then you have to think at that level and act at that level. Just like we talked about earlier, when you want to be promoted, you can't keep thinking and acting at the level you're at. You got to think and act at the level you want to be at.
That's right.
And then you'll figure it out. I promise. Richard Branson said it perfectly. When opportunity comes your way, success. People said, "What's your secret to success?" He said, "When opportunity comes my way, I say yes, and then I figure it out." Okay.
That's right. I love it.
So,
I love it. Again,
yeah.
so many great tips in there, Gary. One of my favorite quotes from a movie. It's a goofy movie called Employee of the Month. It's like there's like a good Employee of the Month, and there's this goofy movie Employee of the Month where it's about a guy that I think comes back into the bank and like robs the bank, but he's got a great line. He's like a nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "You got to decide who you want to be, and then start being that person."
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a great line. And it's the same thing as act as if. And what I would call this, Gary, and which you have, and I talk about so much when I'm on other podcasts, is the abundance mentality. Yep. You have to believe, you have to go out, you have to learn. And what I wanted to have you on so much because of your story. You talk, you live it, you talk about it. You talked about how you started out, you learned, you walked the walk, you went out, you talk to people, you figure out how to do it. Then you scaled, you maintain that mentality that you could do bigger. You look for opportunities and ways, continue to learn, talking to people like Robert Kiyosaki with his course. And then once you had the knowledge, you had the relationships, you had the team built around you, now you took it to that exponential level. And to hear you doing 9-figure deals, I love it. I just love it. And again, I want to underscore this. If you've been listening to this since the beginning, Gary started at 35. So I know if you're listening, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm getting late in the game." A lot of people think 35 is late in the game. You got tons of time. So Gary, the other thing I'd really love for you to do is share. So who do you work with now? You've written 7 books, or is it 8 now? How many books have you written?
7 books. We have actually 3 more in the works. The next one's going to be purely commercial. Another one's I call a husband, father, brother, son. It's about the role of the man in the current world, in a family, and in a business environment. And then and there's a couple others we're kind of visualizing on. But those 2 right there, the first one will probably be out this year. The second one, it's a toughie because it's my personal life, and what happens, I go down nostalgia lane. Sometimes I get choked up because I started that book in 2007. That's 15 years ago. And as you can imagine, a lot in 15 years. So, but I want to share that with people. It just, it doesn't matter how the world, the point is that the world's going to change, politics will change, society will change, cultures will change, everything will change. But the fact is, you still play a role of father if you have children, of son, if you're alive, you're a son, right? That's right. Brother, if you got siblings, and of course, husband if you're married. And nowadays, husband can mean a couple different. You're married to a woman, or maybe you're married. And I don't know what your preference is, but for me, I prefer a woman. I'm not. Please don't take that. I'm not knocking anybody else. My
it's
son.
All good, man.
Yeah, it's all good. But the fact is, even if let's say you are married to a man married a man, or a woman married a woman, still have that role, and in business, it doesn't mean that you're a caveman or you're a gorilla. What it means is, people will look to you for leadership. They will look to women too, in fact. Okay. Right. But in times of crisis, typically, you're gonna be asked to step up to the plate. And if not the lead role, support the person who is, and if you're in a support role, play that role to the best of your ability. It doesn't matter if you're supporting a man or a woman. You be a man about it. I really sincerely hope this doesn't offend anybody, but the bottom line is, we're genetically wired certain ways, and you've got to honor that. There's a role to play in this world, no matter how the world changes. And I suggest you find it, pursue it and give it everything you got and be the best at it.
That's
Never
right.
compromise on principle.
That's right. Step up, be the best, do your best.
Yep.
And that's why I teach my boys every day. Look, your job, win or lose, your job is to do your best, do your absolute best. And
Yep.
that's what I expect.
Yep.
So Gary, if people want to get your books, they want to learn how to work with you with your coaching
Yep.
program, maybe they're an agent or a broker and they want to learn about how to become part of your network. What's the best way
Yep.
to get in touch with
Sure.
you?
Well, I do. Over the years, I built 6 training programs and all related to investing, and of course the 7 books. But if you're an investor, go to realestatewithgarywilson.com. Okay. And on the page, you'll see 5 little leader books. They're basically 5 pages each. I'm sorry, there's 6 of them now. But really, what I would suggest is click on the members area. I know you're probably not a member if you don't know this, but click on that one, because on the left-hand side, if you are a member, you log in and get everything there. If you're not a member, go to the right-hand side and go in and get in there. You get it for 30 days for free. Grab all the books you can. Yep, all 7 books, 300 some odd different recordings on anything related to real estate, marketing campaigns, website resources. I mean, treat it like it's Christmas. But I will tell you this, in addition to that, go to globalinvestoragent.com, globalinvestoragent.com. Find yourself one of our investors. We're all over the place. We're in 27 states, national team. Every one of them is trained by me. So I focus my energy now, Chris, on training those agents and those brokers how to serve the investor, identify, analyze, negotiate on and off market deals. We have access. I purchased the access to every county base for property records, court records, people records. We know everything about everybody. Okay. In addition to that, you can see the profiles. You can search by name, you can search by state. So if you're listening and you're an agent and you realize you don't have a complete model, because if all you're doing is showing open house and driving buyers all the way around 50 houses in the evening when your kids are at home, you should check this out, because when you work with investors, work during the day. We don't work on nights and weekends. We work during the day.
That's right.
And guess how many transactions we get on average per client? We get 4. That's a dramatic difference. And I know some agents get frustrated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you're trying to be a residential agent working with investors, you're going to get frustrated, and so are the investors. Get the training, because it's a different mindset. It's a different motivation. It's a different set of skills and talents and method processes. And if you're still trying to point out the pretty carpet and the chandeliers to them, you're going to lose them. But if you can point out the income potential, we call upside potential, downside risk. We have formulas for that you learn and show them. That's what's going to impress them. We don't ever have to have buyer's agent agreement signed with our investor, because they love the stuff that we have.
Yeah.
So I would just go. You can get a meeting with me. By the way, there's a section on there you can click and talk to Gary, whatever, and I'll interview you. And I'm not saying it's for everybody. It's not for everybody. But if you got the ambition and the drive and you want to invest yourself, that's part of our team culture. We don't just teach you how to earn commissions. We teach you how to invest it. Okay. So it's a different model. And man, it's growing pretty fast. Actually, we're the fastest growing team in the country right now. In fact, we're continually ranked 1, 2, or 3 nationally. And we have a philosophy that is, we want you to participate in the same product that you're helping other people buy and sell. Get a piece of that American dream. Get your piece of pie for you and your family. Leave a legacy for your children. You can do that when you own real estate. Okay.
Love it. I love it. Gary, that's awesome. It's an awesome message. And look, I want to leave with the quote that you have on your website. You say your level of success will not exceed your level of personal development. So I hope you're motivated by Gary's story today. He's got a ton of resources out there, as we do at nextlevelincome.com. Check out Gary's website. We're going to have all of the websites that he listed in the show notes. Gary, thank you so much for sharing your story, your resources with our listeners today.
You're very welcome. Just remember, guys, education, information plus action equals results. That's the formula. So, Chris, thanks again for having me. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed interviewing you on mine, and returning the favor. This is how what makes the world go round. Abundance-minded people,
I love it. Gary, thanks again.
Okay, take care.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.